Okay, this link is working. The other one, let me get the new link sent out to everybody. So hopefully we can get everyone in here and we can start this webinar. Oh my goodness. Okay, see you in there. I could tell there were people waiting, and it just kept saying YouTube is unable to start your live stream. Of course, I've been having some issues with YouTube's platform. I also wanted to be able to use my phone, which I've done in the past. Not happening. It is not into it. So we're going to hop over here to this link and hope that you guys can find me. Otherwise, this is going to be sent out on the replay this afternoon. So bummer that, the technical things weren't working correctly. I'm going to prop up my computer a little bit more here because I did not plan on using my computer. I'm using books. Laura Tremaine, thank you so much. I had all the things up so you couldn't see my exercise ball and my, all of that. I wonder if we're using the right microphone. Is this the microphone we're using? These here. Let's see. I don't even know. I don't even know. YouTube, you switched everything up on me right at the last second here. Okay, well, we're going to dive in because I don't want to waste any more of anybody's time. And I've got my mic here. And so hopefully one way or another, it is going to record. We're good to go. All right, you guys. Welcome to the All the Things Back to School webinar. I'm so excited to be doing this with you. I did a back to school class last year. Oh, good, Bonnie's here. You got to pop up a message. All right, well, hopefully it's going to just keep working and everybody can find me because there were like 9 people over in the other one and it just would not start. Okay, moving on. So I did a little class last year, which was a lot of fun. And we did like a week working through it, but I decided to kind of reformat how we were going to do things this year because I wanted to be able to give people some like solid, tangible tools. We did the class last year and we worked through the information, but I wanted to have a little bit more than that. So I'm going to be talking about that throughout this. And I'm going to come in right off the bat here and just let you know. So I have this toolkit that is available for purchase if you are interested. It's $27. So I feel like it is very affordable, that it's going to take you through all the things and give you a lot of resources. I'm going to go more into what the details of that toolkit are at the end of this. But don't worry, you are going to get like real solid information in today's webinar. You're not going to walk away just feeling like you just received a big sales pitch and there wasn't anything else other than that. No, you are going to walk away with the process, with the steps that I walk through, the steps that I encourage you to walk through as you are going into the back to school planning. That was the other thing I was going to mention. I moved it up a lot earlier this year because in the Pacific Northwest, we get out of school really late and we start school really late. But I know a lot of the country starts a lot earlier. So I wanted to make these resources available a lot earlier in the summer because I know a lot of you are already like in that planning mode. Even though we don't start until September, all of our back to school stuff is out at Target and Walmart and all the places. So it is time to start thinking about it, whether we want to or not. The other link doesn't work. I know, Whitney, I'm so sorry. It would not start the live. It was the craziest thing. So I just sent out another email. Hopefully people can find us here. But welcome. Thank you so much. Is the sound okay? You guys can let me know that too. But basically, okay, so we are going to be walking through a lot of the steps that I have in the All the Things Back to School workbook, which is in my toolkit. Sound is good. Great. You got the email and you found me. Okay. So this is kind of like the workup of what we're going to be talking about today. The steps that I think are really helpful to walk through as you are heading into a new school year that is just going to help you get all of your ducks in a row, because there are so many moving pieces to a new school year that we really need to kind of take care of as much as possible before all of the wheels start rolling so that they can roll without kinks or the least number of kinks as possible. So we're just going to dive straight in here. Like I said, I will tell you at the end where to find that toolkit. It's on my website. And I will tell you more about the toolkit, but let's just dive into the information so that you can hopefully be taking notes and figuring out what it is that you need to be doing as you head into back to school. Also, if you want a podcast, this webinar is going to be really geared towards you as the parent for what you can be doing to prep for back to school. But I have a whole podcast that came out yesterday, Live Well Anyway. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. When this is over, I will post it in the description for this video. But you can go and listen to that podcast, and it's all about how to help our kids get organized, teaching them how to use planners, figuring out what planner is probably going to work best for your child. I have a whole section on study skills and kind of like kicking up their study skills. So as far as like the kids are concerned and prepping them, that podcast goes over a ton of those things. So you can go and listen to that if you want the kids side of it, but this is going to be for us parents. You start back July 31st. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It was like, okay, we're going to need to move this up a little earlier this year. Okay. If you have been a part of any of my planning resources, any of my planning classes, all of that kind of thing, you're going to know what I'm going to say you need to start out with. The first thing that you need to do is a brain dump, okay? You need to be able to figure out what all it is that you need to plan. And you need to have one central place where you are putting all of the information that is going to be flowing into you from all of your kids' schools. Like I have 4 kids at 4 different schools. There's a lot of info, plus all of their after school activities. My son's doing an internship this year. There's a lot of moving parts. And so we need to have a base list where we are writing down all of the things and we are keeping track of all of that core information. So I really want to encourage you to do a brain dump that is back to school focused. So as a part of this toolkit, I actually have a Trello template that will walk you through a brain dump, but some of the things that you're going to want to include on your brain dump, kind of like your central place, whether you use Trello or a notebook or whatever it is that's going to work best for you, you want to put down what all of their activities are, when these activities start, any supplies you need for these activities, what school supplies do you need for this year, what kinds of committees are you going to serve on if you're going to serve on any at all. They always try to recruit me, like at my son's high school, like he's so involved in the band, you should be the secretary. And I was like, I think there are a lot of doctors' wives with children at your school who don't work. And I am a single mom of 4 who works full time. I don't think I'm your gal. I think you can find somebody else. So we do have to know our boundaries. But I just want to encourage you to write down all of the things for back to school. And sometimes when I'm first getting this started, I'll put it down on paper and then I will move it over into a digital format because you just want to get out all the things out of your head so you're not trying to hold them in your head. And I have a ton of different YouTube videos and podcasts where I have talked about how to do a thorough brain dump. So you can find a lot of those out there, but I really want you to do a focused brain dump specifically about back to school items. Now, once you do that and you kind of have pulled together all of that information, I want you to move on to the calendar. I also have a YouTube video that's all about how to utilize Google Calendar to keep yourself really well organized. But whatever calendar it is that you are going to use, I suggest that you pull together every calendar that has been given to you. Everything from every school that your children are going to, from every activity, from everything. Sit down with whatever calendar, whether you use a paper planner or a digital calendar like Google Calendar or some other, digital format. Sit down and put in every single date. Now, I know this can be time consuming, but I am so grateful come May when I can look at my calendar and see all of the band dates, like all of the band performances that they have at the very end of the year that I put in the summer before. When I took that time to put everything in for the entire year, not just 1 month, not just, the first semester, no, do the whole year. You will thank yourself later because probably you're not going to make the time later in the year when you are in the midst of all of the things with life to sit down and start putting things in again. And you're probably definitely not going to do it on a monthly basis. So if you do it now, you save yourself time because it inevitably takes less time when you just sit down and you do it once than when you do it 1,000 times over. So sit down and get in all of the calendar dates, anything that is reoccurring. I actually, on the calendar, put in what time my kids' buses leave, what time my kids' buses get back, what time school starts. I account for all of my driving time. I have a whole little calendar on my Google Calendar. It's a gray color. I've customized all my colors. But I have a calendar that is just called car time. And so I know that I block out that time and I just make it a repeating thing on my calendar. And then I have that in there. So I'm not looking at my Google Calendar thinking that I have time that I don't actually have. I account for any of the driving time that I have to do. So I know that I am not going to be back to my house until 8:15 in the morning from driving my kids around. Not 8 when I drop off the last kid. I put it down all the way to 8:15 so that I can see very clearly what time I have and what time I don't have. You're plugging the school calendar into your Google Calendar right now. Yes, you're adding the first semester dates to your paper planner because you don't have your 2024 yet. But just having it even all in your Google Calendar so that when you update your planner later, you have that one place to go to instead of 47 different calendars from all of the different things. Like, it is exhausting to look for the emails and like all of the different places that all of the dates can be coming from. You just want to get as much in there as possible. And then as soon as you are sent a new date from something, add it to the calendar so that you're not looking for all of the information in all of the places. We waste so much time just trying to find information. If we start off with having it all in one spot from the beginning, which is why I really like Trello even for the brain dump, because I can take any of those emails, any of those PDFs that the school has sent me or the activities have sent me, and I can actually put them in my Trello boards. So when I need that information again, I can just go to the Trello board. I don't have to go searching through my email to try to find that PDF that came who knows when and, whatever. I can just have it all there together. So I don't have to waste time looking for things, which I think is really helpful. Okay. So once you sit down and you do your brain dump and you do your calendar and you have that part of it ready, now it's time to move on to some of the prep, some of the more like practical hands-on things that you can be doing around your house to help yourself get ready for school. So I have a whole section on this in the back to school workbook. I gotta find a place to set this up better. Okay. What are a couple of areas that you can set up in your house that are going to make the school year easier? Well, one of them to me is a backpack area. Having a place in my house where my kids know that is where the backpacks go. They don't go in the middle of the living room. They don't go in your bedroom. They don't go any of the random places. They go under this desk that we have in our kitchen. We know exactly where to find them in the morning, and it doesn't have everything going everywhere. Now, on that desk, on top of it, is where they unload any of their papers that they got from school that day. So many papers, even though we've switched over to 1,000 emails as well. So I have all of that right in one spot, so we're not searching around for things. That's also where they keep their shoes that they're going to be putting on in the morning, and during the winter, they keep their jackets there as well. So there is no searching around. I want to know exactly where everything is and keep it contained in one spot. So if you don't have some sort of backpack area, I really suggest that you create a backpack area. Also, where are your kids going to do their homework? I don't know how many times a child, when I haven't had this set up, has been like, I thought they were doing their homework and they're like, oh, I couldn't do my homework because I didn't have a pencil or whatever dumb excuse. And you're like, really? Really? You didn't have a pencil? How long have you been up here? So I like to make sure that they have homework areas that are set up wherever they are actually going to end up doing their homework, because my sixth grader, she a lot of time likes to do her homework on her bed or at her desk in her bedroom. It's not going to be downstairs at the kitchen table. But wherever they are, I make sure that they have the supplies that they need available to them, so there are no excuses, right? So we want to have those areas. There's also things like just having our pantry and our fridges cleaned out and organized so that we can find the things to make lunches easy. We can have the things for breakfast easily accessible and people know what's there. I think having those, it's a good time to kind of do a little bit of an overhaul on both of those areas. Good idea. Also, the car. So I have a pretty extensive list in the checklist that comes with the back to school toolkit of all the things that I like to keep in my car for the school year, because we have a lot of activities where I'm sitting in the car for an hour or 2 hours with a kid. And having everything that we need in the car for them to be able to complete whatever kind of homework they randomly have in their backpack, or clean up messes, or keep them fed and happy and entertained, that is very helpful to my mental stability. And so I just have a little basket. It actually goes in the back seat between both of my girls, and I keep things in there like crayons, colored pencils, scissors, a ruler, pencils, obviously, a glue stick. There's a surprising amount of things that we need to glue together. A couple of like books and like little games and stuff in there. I keep wet wipes. I keep some non-perishable snacks, things like granola bars and fish crackers and stuff like that. I keep that pretty well replenished and have that space back there. I also have clipboards. Clipboards are super handy in the car because then they have a flat surface to be able to do their work. I really have appreciated having that space set up and ready to go so that we don't get to ballet and it's like, oh, now we have an hour and we can't do anything because we don't have anything that we need. No, it's set up, it's ready to go. It's worth it for that little bit of an extra investment to have the things that we need for that time when we're going to be sitting there over and over and over again during the week. So I think that's a really, really helpful thing to have ready. Another thing that you're going to want to be getting ready is you're getting the back to school backpacks ready, or any bags for your kids' activities, making sure that they have everything in those bags. There have been times before where like my daughter's in love with one bag and she wants to use it for all the things. And that is the most frustrating thing, because it's like, oh, we have to unload the ballet stuff to put in the cross country stuff and what, like, no, just have a separate bag for each of the activities. You're not battling on anything. And I put those, guess what? Right where the backpacks go. So we always know that is the spot. They're not going to be anywhere else. We don't have to go running around searching for things before we leave for ballet. That is where they are. So I think that is really helpful. Okay, another thing that I'm going to say is a good idea as we're kind of talking about like prepping things, getting things ready, is preparing for the inevitable, because every year, without fail, kids go back to school, they're all exposed to each other, and there is sickness around. That is just what happens. So before we are heading into the school year, I like to take it like a two-pronged approach. I like to have the stuff that is preventative, that I am making sure that I'm keeping up on my kids' supplements and all that kind of thing, giving them their vitamins. I have a list of some vitamins in the back to school toolkit and in the Trello board. Some really great brands that we love, like Mary Ruth's Organics. They've got like gummies and liquids and all kinds of different things that are really awesome. But I have a few different brands in there that we really like. So keeping on top of their supplements, making sure like we're keeping up their immunity as much as possible. And I'm also keeping up on mine. But then when sickness does hit, because it's gonna come, like it happens every year, making sure that I'm prepared for both colds and like stomach bugs. So I try to stock up before back to school on cold medicine, on electrolytes, on Kleenex, on like all the little things that make colds more comfortable. So the cough drops and the little Zicam nose swabs and like all of the things. Having like popsicles on hand, like anything to help them through a stomach bug, activated charcoal, like all the stuff and make sure we have it, because there's nothing worse than when a kid gets sick and you're like, oh, I don't have cold medicine for them to sleep well tonight, or I don't have any of the stuff to like take care of them when they have a stomach bug. Oh, it's so frustrating and so annoying. And so just before the school year starts, I just go ahead and get all the stuff, have it all ready to go, so that when it does happen, I can just move into taking care of them mode instead of the frantic, like, we need to go to the store and grab all of the things. Like, it's just helpful to have that be a part of your back to school prep, of getting the things for the sicknesses that are definitely going to come. Okay, now let's talk about some home systems. I want you to be thinking about your houses and how you're going to keep up with your house during the school year. I think it's really important if you have, like those places we've talked about that we've kind of already prepped and organized, the pantry, the fridge, the backpack area, I think is a really big one, having the shoes available. So it always amazes me how people lose their shoes and then they get mad at me. And I'm like, I didn't wear your shoes. I didn't wear your ballet outfit either. So this is on you, child. But having that one central place for that stuff to go is definitely helpful. But what other systems do you need to be thinking about in your house? Usually summer chores are a little bit different from the back to school chores because kids aren't here as much. And, it's just a whole different thing. So you need to be thinking about what matters to you when you are going to create whatever system you are for keeping your house together and clean. What is the most important thing to you? For me, for a long time, it was, I don't care about getting my dishes done at night if that's going to mean that I don't have enough water to take my bath, because my bath is more important. And I knew that was what was important to me. But that might not be important to you. You might want to have your kitchen cleaned, which, by the way, now I'm on a streak of like cleaning my kitchen at night, but I'm keeping on top of it. So I'm not doing it all at night and I'm not wasting my water. That's a whole nother thing. But you have to figure out kind of like what your cleaning threshold is. And it doesn't have to be what anybody else's threshold is. It can be just exactly what yours is, and that is okay. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to justify it. You just have to know your personality and what is acceptable to you. And then create a plan for keeping your house at least at that level so that you don't lose your mind. I think that's really important. And when you're doing that, you can think about what you can delegate to other people, what your like ideal is for your house, and what sort of your bare minimum is, and how you can achieve that. And a lot of times when you are creating these systems, it takes iteration. It takes putting a system into place, meaning like, okay, I'm going to do the laundry on this day, I'm going to clean the bathrooms on this day, or maybe I'm going to do it like one like full on session on Saturdays, and that's going to be what I do, and that's going to be how I handle it. You figure out what system is going to work for you and try it, and then change it because it's probably not going to work exactly the way that you think it will. So it's that iteration process. You try it and you tweak it, and then you try that new one and then you tweak that until you find a system that works really well for you. And our seasons are constantly changing. So we're always having to kind of like mix it up and reassess things, but that's okay. That's when you just add in that tweaking. If you've got a basis for how you're going to do the thing that you're going to do, then it doesn't take like usually having to reinvent the wheel in order to make it happen. So I would highly suggest that you kind of work through that process of figuring out what home systems you need to be able to have things working really well. Okay, where am I at so we're on that home systems idea. I want to move into the idea of routines. So I think that in addition to like kind of the weekly stuff you're doing for cleaning your house and whatever, or even the daily stuff, it's really important to have some routines in place to make things easier in your life during the school year. This is especially important to think about the next thing. Like I try to, when I'm doing routines, it's not so much about what is happening right then, but about what I can be preparing for later in the day or the next morning. I actually think that the most vital routine is not the morning routine, which I think is probably surprising to some people. I think it's actually the evening routine because I'm not a morning person. I know there are a lot of morning people out there, but I am not a morning person. And the more that I can do in the evening or the afternoon to prep us to have a good and easy morning the next day, oh man, it makes such a difference to our lives when we have a really, really solid evening routine. So, what are some of those things? Well, it's, making sure that everybody's backpacks are ready to go for the next morning, which a lot of these things, they're not things I'm directly doing. I may be like overseeing or being like, hey, did you get that done to my kids? It's all of us combined. So, our backpacks emptied of the day's paperwork, anything that needs to go in there for the next day put in there, are they like good to go? Our water bottles filled, our lunches made, our snacks put in backpacks, are the activity bags for the next day ready to go? All of those kinds of things. Are clothes picked out for the next day? Are like, is homework done? I hate messing with homework in the morning. I think that is a recipe for disaster. So, all of those kinds of things are things that I like to put into an evening routine to make the next morning easier. I'm trying to think, like looking over the calendar, I think is a really important one to do in the evening. Having the whole kitchen space be as ready for morning as possible. I think that is a really, really helpful thing to have done because I want to be able to just move into sort of the bare minimum of what we have to get done in the morning so that we don't all kill each other. So just the tasks of having to get ready in the morning happen in the morning. Anything else that doesn't have to happen in the morning can happen the night before to make actually getting out the door happen and not be like a big cluster. You know what I mean? After school routines, I think, are also really important. What is expected of your kids when they get home from school? Them knowing that, I think, is really helpful. And in the back to school toolkit, I actually have a whole Canva template that you can go in and you can completely customize to your student. I can show it to you in a little bit here. But it's a Canva template. You put their name at the top, you put their after school tasks, like any of their routines you can put on there. So you are actually like communicating that to them. And then I also have a section where I put in what activities they have every day, both after school and during school. I find that it's really helpful to know which things my kids are going to every day at school. So I know if we need PE shoes or, whatever. It's really helpful to know those things. But having that list, having communicated it to your kids so they know after school what is expected of them. Are they allowed to get a snack and take a little break before they do their homework? Do they need to jump right into doing their homework? Do they have an activity they're going to directly after school? All of those things factor in and are really helpful to know. Okay. And then this is a big
Siri
one.
here.
Oh, no, we don't need to talk, Siri. I'm busy. Okay. So after you've put together your routines, morning, after school, evening, I think those are really key ones. A weekend routine, I think that's also really helpful. What you're going to do to prep for the week. I like to do things like with my girls, they pick out all their outfits for the whole week. This is also really helpful for us because we have a crazy parenting plan and there's a lot of back and forth. And so when we can get their bags packed, if they're having to leave it all that week, have all that stuff done on the weekend, it saves me so much time and headaches during the week. But even just having them pick out their outfits so we're not arguing about that in the morning, so helpful. A lot of times, even the night before, as part of our evening routine, we will discuss, how do you want to do your hair in the morning? Because I need to know if I need a longer stretch of time to help you with your hair in the morning. Hair is like a big, big thing around here. So I would highly suggest those all become parts of like your regular routine, regular conversation and communication with your kids. Okay, another really, really big one that is going to save your bacon this fall is meal planning. You guys, I am like the queen of loving a good meal plan. I hate getting to 4 o'clock and not knowing what we're having for dinner. I don't like to not be prepared. And so having things in place so you know exactly what you're having for dinner and having the food that you need to have for dinner, it's it's a lifesaver and a game changer. I think It saves you so much time, and it also saves you money, and it saves your mental capacity because by the time they get home from school, I'm already like zapped out on making decisions. So I need to have that done beforehand. And as much as I'm able to bulk plan as possible, especially with the meals, I love doing that. I love knowing like what an entire month of meals are. So there is a website that I absolutely love. They sponsor my podcast, but I have used them for years and years and years, even before that. It's called plantoeat.com. If you go to plantoeat.com/livewell, you can get 30% off a yearly subscription, and you can also try it for 30 days free. It is a game changer. You load all of your recipes that your family actually uses in there. And then you can just drag and drop those recipes onto your calendar. And the fast way that I do this is I don't go week by week. I figure it out by what is happening every night. What kind of meal do I need to have so that my family can survive? So I do like every Monday, I know that we have ballet and it's going to be super busy. And so I need to do a crock pot meal, or maybe we're going to have a soup or something that I can do earlier in the day and it's just ready to go. So I'll put four crock pot, four crock pot meals on all the Mondays. And then what kind do we need on Tuesday? Well, maybe Tuesdays are going to be really busy. So we're going to have leftovers from what we had the night before. So I'll just put in leftovers. And then Wednesday, we've got a little bit more time. So I can do, something that requires a little bit more prep. And so I put all of those things in on Wednesdays. So as you can see, like when you do it that way, it actually goes a lot faster. And then the cool thing about Plan to Eat is that you can actually create those things into menus. So when you know sort of what the flow of your week is, what kinds of meals you need each night of the week, then you can actually program that as a menu. You can do a whole month, you could do a week, you could do however length of time you want to and Plan to Eat. And then in the future, all you have to do is drag and drop those menus right back onto your calendar and your planning is done. So you kind of like put in a little bit of effort here in the initial time of planning your stuff out, and then you can just repeat it over and over and over again. You do, I would say, like 4 to 6 menus, and that allows a pretty good amount of variation. Your family isn't going to complain about things being repeated, and you're going to save a ton of your sanity. So knowing what those things are, I think, is super helpful. And then another thing I did at the end of this past year when it was super crazy with all the end of the year stuff is I signed up for HelloFresh. And it actually wasn't more expensive than me buying our dinners from the grocery store to make. It saved me a ton of time. I didn't have to go to the grocery store as much. I was only shopping for lunches and breakfasts, and it saved my sanity. Oh my word. Having those just arrive on my doorstep, having it all spelled out for me, all of the ingredients together, game changer. Game changer. I will probably do it at the beginning of the school year again as well, because it was just so incredibly helpful. And my kids liked all of the food. I wasn't having to come up with like fabulous new recipes to have them make or for me to make for them. They were all pretty fast to make. I gotta say, I tried them and Green Chef. I might try a couple other ones so that I can get the discounts. You know what I mean? But it was really helpful. Okay. Amber said, I have homework cut off. If it's not done by 8 p.m. the night before, I will not help you. This has been a huge help, and your kids know and have gotten into the habit. I do think doing those kinds of things are helpful for sure. I know my son is actually taking a summer class right now, and so there's a little bit more like leeway. But he came and woke me up at 11:45 the other night. It was like, can you come look at my photography project? I was like, no, I cannot. This is insane. What made you think that I would want to get out of my bed and come look at your photography project? No, I do not. Okay. Anyway, I digress. Okay. As you are doing all of these things, as you're coming up with your home systems and your routines and all of this stuff that's going to work great for your family and your calendar, you need to communicate it to them. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to follow your great plans if they don't know what they are. So I think that this is something you have to be extra cognizant of, and you just have to know going in that a lot of times it goes in one ear and out the other. And so you want to create a lot of different ways that you're communicating this information to your family. Having a whiteboard is a great way to go. Having those student lists that I have in the back to school toolkit that you can customize on Canva, having those printed out and put on the fridge or someplace prominent that they're going to be able to see, writing things on a whiteboard, telling them the things. If you have older students or a husband or a partner or whatever, sharing calendars with them, pointing them to those things, reminding them. They require a lot of reminders, but having like the things they can actually see and the things they can hear, I think is helpful to just knowing you need to communicate in those ways, and it'll help you to be a little bit less frustrated. So having some sort of communication station that your family can communicate on, using those student lists, I think that's all really helpful. And that's kind of like the linchpin piece and making sure that you're all on the same page and you're able to move forward into as smooth of a year as possible. So get on board with the communication, know that it's necessary, know that you're probably going to have to repeat yourself, and then just like don't freak out about it. You know you're going to have to repeat yourself. And so just have it be a part of life and don't let it get you down because it's just the way that it goes. Okay, so let me talk to you for a few minutes about my toolkit because I'm really excited about it. All these things that we have talked about today are in even more detail in both a Trello board and, if I can get back to the beginning, this cute little all the things workbook. So it goes through all of the different things that you are going to need to do for back to school. It's got links to things. I've got Amazon boards linked with all the different products that you could be needing to get for back to school. It's got all the stuff. It's going to remind you if you missed anything. This is not working. Canva, work with me. Oh my. Okay, there we go. There's the button. Okay, in addition to this, I also have the back to school checklist. Why Canva? There we go. Okay, I also have a back to school checklist. You can find all of this by going to mackenziekoppa.com, clicking on shop. You can find this toolkit there that has all the things for you. It's got both the workbook that I just showed you along with this checklist. This is everything that you have to buy and be thinking about for back to school. So school supplies you could possibly need, things for teens and tweens that I think are helpful to, like, yeah, they need new deodorant and there's someone at my door. At the front door. Well, they're just gonna have to wait. And facial care, and the girls, they need to have their little packages of their things in their backpacks. Extras that you might want to get and you haven't thought about, things like locker organizers and mini staplers and sketchbooks and washi tape and all that kind of stuff, bento boxes for lunch boxes, some different things that you might want to think about, and then all the rest of the things that you have to think about for back to school clothes, shoes, socks and underwear. It's a great time to be restocking up on socks and underwear. They probably don't fit your kids anymore. It's a good time to be getting the next size up, getting ahead on those winter jackets and hats and gloves and all the things. Hair ties and hair clips, that's another one we might not necessarily be thinking about, but it's a good time of year to be replenishing the stock on those. All of your lunch food and snacks and all the stuff. Everything is listed on here. All that stuff for the car that I said that I use in my car and have handy, I've got that list there. All the things for in case of sickness that you might want to have on hand, and all of your planning to-dos to get you ready for the year. So this is going to take you through like signing up for activities, adding the things to your calendar, creating your routines. All those steps that we talked about are very clearly lined out right here, so you can be checking them off as you go, along with a place to write down any notes that you might have about it. In addition to the checklist and the, and the workbook that I told you about. I can use my brain, I swear. This is the student list that I have been telling you about that I want to show you. So this is a customizable Canva template. You can just click on the link that I have for you in the back to school toolkit, which you can find at mackenziecoppa.com, and click on shop. It's only $27. This toolkit, I have things written in here as examples to you of what kinds of things you could put on yours. But you can change the colors to be your kid's favorite color, and then you put in their after school routine, their morning routine, and their evening routine. And then at the bottom here, can you see that? Is for their activities. And so this top line, I put all the kids' activities that they have at school that day. And then this is the stuff they have after school. So we just like have this on the fridge. It's really easy to be able to quickly look at and remember what is going on every single day of the week. Another great thing to add to this list is your student's number, like their student ID number at their school. I find we're always needing that for some random reason. And so having their student ID number on their list, having it in a place that's always handy, that's another great thing that you could add to your brain dump and your Trello board. Having that there, I think, is really helpful so that it's just like one of those pieces of information that you often need. And then the Trello board that I just mentioned, that is also a part of the back to school toolkit. It will go in even more depth than the workbook. It kind of works hand in hand with the workbook. It's got links to a bunch of things. It will walk you through doing a brain dump, and it's a great central place that you can keep all that information that we've been talking about. So all the PDFs from all the different activities, all the information, all in one spot. The to-dos, the list of things that you might need to get for specific activities, all of that kind of thing you can keep in that Trello board. You can use that Trello board all year long. And then in addition to all of this, I actually did just release some student planner templates that go along with that podcast episode that I talked about at the beginning of this webinar that came out yesterday. So if you get yourself all prepped, you can also get your student all prepped and teach them about study skills and using a planner themselves. So that podcast came out yesterday. Live Well Anyway, wherever you find your podcast, you can get it there. And there is a free student planner template, both a monthly template and a weekly template for Trello that might be a great resource for your teenager to be able to use to keep track of their homework if they're wanting to do things in a more digital format instead of maybe a paper format. So you can find that at, I think it's mackenziecoppa.com/ where did I write it down? Where did I write it down, you guys? I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to find it. I know where it's at. It is those, and those student boards are completely free, even if you don't get the back to school toolkit. You can get these boards for free if that would be something helpful for your student. So it's mackenziecoppa.com/Trello student planners. So that gives you both of those different formats that they can work from, and you can customize it to them. I'm going to be doing a video here in YouTube really soon that is going to be all about how to customize those student planners for them. But if you guys have any questions, pop them in. I'm going to need to get going to get to another appointment here, but I would love if you go over to mackenziecoppa.com. I'm going to put this in the chat.